Welcome to part 3 of BBD Talks. So BBD Talks is a place where we come together to discuss important information around the property and design spaces. So basically within the construction industry, what can we learn about different areas of making our homes the most comfortable places we can have. So ensuring that the life cycle of the home continues for very long and we do as little damage to our homes, and that means careful planning when we're buying, when we're building, when we are extending, when we're changing things around. It needs a lot of careful planning, and this is what this channel is for. This episode of BBD Talks is about project management within a residential project. So this is for people who are building, will be making changes to their spaces, and are actually just looking for some direction as to how they're going to put these projects together in their minds, down on paper, and then be able to see through to the end of the project in the most effective and efficient way. We delve into the space by looking at the measures that you need to have in place, that you need to control for. So that's cost, quality, and time. And then we look at the 4 stages of project management process, and then taking what would be the 5th stage, which is monitoring and controlling, into every single one of the 4 stages. And I do this with one of my good friends, Sandisiwe Linyana, and we delve into how to project manage in the best way possible for the best results for our home projects. So please like, comment, and subscribe. This will definitely be a 2-part series, and let's go. The first part of the series will be the first 2 stages of project management, and then the second part of the series will be the last 2 stages of the project management process. And then finally, I will just put together a video, which will be just a short video of some of the documents that you may need in each stage. If you have any questions or anything that you'd actually like me to maybe delve into a little bit in the 3rd video, please let me know, and I'd be glad to consider it and maybe add it to the video. So thank you so much for watching, and I really hope that these conversations are great conversations to have, and they're interesting, and you learn from them and you can grow from them. Yeah, thank you.
Natural. That's what I want.
Just be like Oprah, guys.
just be natural.
Just do it.
No. Okay. And I thought there was no better person to have than my friend Dlamini, who is a construction manager by profession.
Hi everyone. So I'm Sandisiwe. I am a construction manager by profession, but I'm currently now in the facilities management industry. So I started off as a project coordinator within the facilities management discipline, but I've now transitioned completely into facilities management. So I currently now work as a facilities coordinator.
Woo, that's a lot. One of the reasons that I wanted to have this conversation about managing a construction project is because a lot of people build their houses from scratch themselves, or they undertake major projects in their homes and there's no project management at all. And so what you end up finding is you are over a budget you didn't even know existed. Nothing is finished, everything is a mess, the contractors are the worst people. And so I just want to make sure that people at home are well aware of what goes into managing a project. What is project management and why is it important?
Yeah. So for me, I think that we generally, when we are doing our own projects at home, it's just like we just wake up and say, oh, I want to build a house. I have this 50,000 to spend, and then you just start building. In most cases, you don't have a plan. You don't know how much that 50,000 will cover within the project. Don't know how long the project will take. Don't even know what type of people you need for that project. So when we are doing our own projects, we tend to not apply the professional knowledge Whereas when we are then building a hospital or building a residential property for a specific client, and then now we have this professional team that is managing the project. So why can't we then apply that same thing ourselves at home?
Okay.
So basically, if you are building a home for yourself, you then measure if this project that you did was successful.
Yeah.
You only look at the fact that I have what I wanted, but maybe it took you 5 years to complete it. Would you then say that that was a successful project, or now you've ended up even spending way more than the 50,000 that you had?
Yeah.
So for me, project management really is there to help us make sure that we define the objective, or you make sure that you have a clear goal of what you want.
Yeah.
Clearly define the scope of the project. Put together a budget. It could even be at a high level, like you say, you have 50,000, and then just work it out. What can I cover within? What can this 50,000 cover?
Yeah.
And also, just what type of quality do I want?
Quality is important.
Quality is important. So for you to, when you are able to then manage all those components, so your time, your quality, your cost, so manage it from when the project starts to when the project ends. And at the end of that project, you are able to then also measure and say, okay, when I started this project, this is what I wanted.
Yeah.
And at the end of the project, this is what I got. So for me, project management is really about that. You are just applying your knowledge and your skills and tools in making sure that whatever tasks that you are completing for that project, you are completing them within those constraints that you would have set for yourself. So for instance, time, cost, quality. So if you have a project and you're able to then manage those, and at the end of the day, you're able to measure and say, okay, this project was successful.
Based on the deliverables that you identified at the beginning. Let's say I am refurbishing a house.
Yeah.
So I am going to redo the tiling, the painting. I'm going to knock down a wall in the dining room so I have like a long open area. How would I then, according to quality, cost, and time, look at what are the type of success measures in order to say, yes, I've done this well?
This is where your plan would then come in. Within project management, you obviously have I think there are 4 stages or 5 stages.
Four
so
or five.
Initiation, your planning stage, execution, and close out. I think the 5th one would be when you monitor and control the project.
Yes.
So I think that's really what you're asking.
Yeah.
So that would fall within all the stages.
Within each stage, right? Because there are,
let's say 4.
Let's work with the 4
Let's
stages,
say 4,
right?
and then the monitoring and controlling would form part of each stage.
Okay.
So you would monitor and control at each stage.
level.
Yeah.
And then you're then looking at quality, cost, and time within each stage. So as you plan, you're looking at it. As you're executing, you're looking at it, etc., etc. Okay.
So with those ones, I think with your time, cost, and quality, you'd mostly start with that control and monitoring at the execution stage.
So if you're breaking down a wall, right, you can't just look at a wall and be like, this one must go, right?
Yeah.
You need an engineer. So do you then call the engineer before so that you can include them in your activity, so in your work breakdown structure? Because it's possible that wall that you're trying to break down cannot handle being broken down, and the house relies on it to survive, basically. All right, but
so
and who do you call?
Yeah.
So before you even start this project, are there people that you're meant to call before to say that yes, this can happen, this can happen? Because that must also be part of your budget.
Definitely. So your initiation stage, that's where you have your project charter,
And then what's in the project charter again?
So in the project charter, you basically, so who's going to be your project manager? You're speaking to your milestones. When is this project going to start? So it's just at a very high level. What are the deliverables? What could be the risks? All of those things.
Yes.
It's just basically a summary of what this project is. Like, what is the need? What are the objectives? What are you trying to achieve?
And by when?
And by when.
Okay.
And this is also the stage where you then identify who your stakeholders will be.
Yes.
So as you are identifying, say, oh, I need to break down the wall. Then you're like, oh, maybe we will need an engineer for this. Or this is what I need to do. Then you start identifying your stakeholders like that.
Yeah.
And so at the planning stage, you would have your plan. So you would have your budget. So it could be. It doesn't have to be to the T.
How do you even define a budget? Would you say, like, for the refurbishment that you've just described, is it then getting quotations to see how much everything will get to, all the changes you want to make, and then saying, no, but I've only got 50,000? Or is it saying, I've got 50,000 and this is what I'm trying to do? Like, it's a chicken and egg situation.
You could say, I have 50,000 and this is what I want. Right? And then that's when you will start with your quotations. But also, before you even go to your quotations, you need to have a defined scope. So you need to know what you are doing. What you will be doing in the project.
So then scope is number one.
Scope is important. Like, you need to define your scope. You need to know exactly what you will be doing. Okay, I'll be breaking the wall, I'll be rebuilding it, I'll plaster, painting, all those things. So you could define it at a high level. First, maybe at your initiation stage, that those are the deliverables. So that's at a high level. And then when you get to your planning stage, this is when you need to be, you have to be precise. Obviously, your scope can always change. It has to be flexible. But I mean, you have to really define it during the planning stage. So you can even just have like a work breakdown structure. So where does this fall? So basically, you could then say, for my walls, this is what I'm going to do, and walls. For the floor, this is what I'm going to do.
So, like, to just be as direct as possible, if we're looking at walls, right? So the wall that we're breaking down in the dining room, our work breakdown structure would be from step 1 to 10 of that wall as a finished project, part of the project. So we would say, I am first going to knock it down, and then I am going to reinforce, or I'm going to reinforce, then knock down, and then
they're clearing out, because you knock it down. That's a cost, because to remove that rubble.
Exactly.
So you need
so
to
it's literally step by, and it's like to the smallest steps in order to know
on your work breakdown structure. Because maybe once you put it into your plan, your program or the MS project, but I think, I mean, if you are
but are people at home?
That's what I'm saying. If you are doing it for yourself, I mean, it doesn't have to be to that level.
So if somebody at home is doing it, could they then, would you then say they should use Excel?
You can use Excel.
Okay, because
really what it is, you're just having your activities, and then you just okay, now I'm just talking about the plan itself. So you have your activities, how long it will take you, when it will start, when it will end. You can also just even add resources. Okay, for this task, I'm going to need so many people, or those are the type of resources that I'm going to need. You can then even also link it to your budget. You can even start building your budget like that, because now as you are breaking it down, you're saying, okay, for me to cut this rubble off-site,
it's 600 rand.
I'm going to need those resources. I'm going to need transport, and this is how much it's going to cost me. And you can build your budget like that.
Okay. So, like, it just needs to be as clear as possible.
You can even write it down.
Exactly, because then you're just ticking.
It might not be as complex.
Maybe exactly, it's just tiling. Yes. Or you're breaking down a wall.
And then when you get to your planning stage, obviously that's when you'll be putting together your budget. how am I going to do my communication? How am I going to manage my quality? So when you are then putting together that budget, then you already know who will form part of the project.
Okay, so the first step is in the phases is initiation, right? So then from in the initiation stage, that's when we're finding all the stakeholders and we know what we're trying to do and by when, but at a very high level.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very high level.
Then when we go to planning, that's when we start doing things like the work breakdown structure, where for each part of what you want to do, you need to break it down into its parts. So for tiling, it needs to be
what needs to go into that.
We're first going to remove the tiles, remove the grout, get it offside, like steps like that. Then they're going to come in and like clean properly, and then they're going to tile, then they're going to grout, well, they're going to lay the tiles, then they're going to grout in, and for each one of those, you're saying that you can then say to yourself, okay, the person who is coming to remove the tiles is going to cost, I don't know, 50 Rand per square meter, and I have 20 or 30 square meters of tiles, and then you can work it out for each part of your work breakdown structure. Yeah. Okay.
So that's how you can put together your budget. We touched on time. So with your time, obviously that's where you put together the project program or project plan.
Yeah, and
with
I
your activities and your timelines.
With time, what I always do is I always work back. So if I want something to be finished on the 30th of September 2020, I would then work back to say it's going to take them, because you've already started sourcing your quotations and things like that. It's going to take them 2 weeks to do this,
or to even deliver
1 week to do this, and you just work back to even see, because sometimes you'll think, like, people will think taking out tiles and retiling takes a week, but when you work back and you're actually like, it's going to take more than a week, then you can work out when you should actually start the project in order to be finished on time. Okay, cool. And that's part of
with
planning.
Time also, that's part of planning. I think with time also it's very tricky, because you might get a client that says, I want this and I want it in 5 months.
Yeah, and that's literally what always happens.
Then you have to work within the 5 months. Or you then maybe get a client who says, oh, I want this, but maybe we can only move out at the end of this month, so you guys can then start at the end of the month. And then in that case, you can start working your plan from the start date. So you're saying, okay, I will be starting on this day, and then work it out. And then after that, you can then advise them and say, okay, I've worked it out, and this project will then take 6 months. Because sometimes clients won't, tell you time, but mostly they tell you that I want it in 5 months. But then you might just get a client who doesn't tell you that I want it in 6 months. They can just ask you for a project plan. Can you please just look at this and tell me how long it will take? And then maybe if they see that the 6 months is too long, when you come back to them and say it's 6 months, then they'll ask you, are you able to maybe shorten it, or
rather take the longest amount of time doing that
planning
to the T. Like knowing exactly who is going to be on site, what they need to be like, rather plan so well and take your time with planning and know your plan than to just say,
let's start.
Don't be high level on the plan. Because
start.
I have been involved in projects where we were so high level on the plan because the client was on our backs. They were like, no, I want my tiling done, my full tiling done in whatever amount of time.
So you're planning as you go.
Right, and that, not only are you going to use more money, right, but you're going to make mistakes. It's Murphy's Law. The tiler will break the tiles when you haven't planned properly. And then another consideration for something like tiles, walls, and things like that is, I think it's really important, and we take it for granted when we're managing projects ourselves in our homes, that we really do need professionals. Because if you have piping, if let's say you're doing your bathroom, or your kitchen or around there, and there are pipes in your walls, right? You, like me as a lay person, I'm not going to see that.
Yeah.
So I actually need to call in a plumber before I even start being like, let me break down walls. I need to call in somebody who's actually going to look at the house and like, is this possible? We can't just footstoots it like for life,
and it's important how you also link your activities.
Yes,
so
please speak about that. Please speak about that.
Okay, now I'm gonna start. So say now you are gonna have ceramic tiles, but you still need to do something in the ceiling, and you're gonna be using your scaffolding or a ladder or whatever. And then now you want to lay your tiles first before you get to the ceiling, and then you're still expecting to then put the scaffolding on top of the ceramic tiles. What are the chances that
they're gonna get scuffed,
or cracked or whatever?
Yeah.
So it's just those type of things that just properly link your work.
With Vusi, right? We were discussing property, and he was saying that one of his friends had was put in this beautiful kitchen. And only months later was like, I'm actually looking to retile. And he was like, what? How's that going to work? Now you've put in this kitchen, the islands, everything is there. So I think it's also important that it is okay for people to accept and understand that, okay, maybe you've got 50,000 rands now, right? So maybe you can only do one part now. And then you can plan in future to do a different part. But what you should do is you should look at a holistic
Give me your complete requirements.
Exactly.
But also as a project manager, I guess if you are the project manager and you have the client, I think it's also your duty to just get those things out of them.
But
what ask those questions?
What if they don't hire? What if they
if you're doing it yourself? Yeah, okay. Cool.
Because you
okay, guys, you need to do that. But I
just the thing is, you have to.
Yeah, just have your complete requirements. So it doesn't mean that just because now you say this is the scope that you have to do it now. You can always phase out the project.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to happen this year. You can just say, okay, this will be phase 1, and I'll do phase 2 in the next year.
And it must inform.
But it must also make sense.
Yes. Like it must inform, like rather start with your ceiling. Finish your ceiling, get your beautiful lighting, get your beautiful chandelier. So that's the initiation, and that's the planning stage. Then what happens in this home that we're refurbishing? What happens next?
So I think before you move on, obviously, to your execution, you have to sort of have kickoff meeting.
What's in a kickoff meeting?
With all your stakeholders now to say, okay, this is the plan. Just make sure that everyone understands what the plan is. People understand their deliverables. Everyone knows what they need to do and when. What resources we need and when do we need to bring those resources to site.
Can the tilers and the painters and the kitchen people and whoever else, can they all work together at the same time? Or does your plan also, it has to separate?
No, I mean they can. You have activities then you can have run at the same time.
So you can break down this wall while you are retiling in the kitchen, for example. But you can't break down this wall while you're retiling around the wall. Okay.
So if it doesn't affect that wall specifically or anything that's happening around it, you can have some activities happening at the same time.
But then there's also probably going to be, you also need to be financially muscled enough to be able to do all those things at the same time. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what's in a kickoff meeting?
You can't be that, or the people that are going to be coming to pour the concrete today, and then you also having your bricklayers on the same day. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So with those type of things, obviously you just have to allow for enough time. Okay, I will pour my concrete. Maybe I'll need to wait for 2 days, whatever. The curing time, and then my bricklayers will then come in. But you can have some activities that can run at the same time.
Okay,
so
cool.
So I was saying in the kickoff meeting, you just need to involve all all your stakeholders.
Yeah.
So if as a client you have hired maybe one contractor who will, like a turnkey contractor, for instance, where you don't have to bring in your own tiler or another person who's going to do the ceiling.
They do everything.
Yeah, so if you hire just one company, so obviously just the representative from that company would then come in.
Okay.
But obviously everyone that you would have identified as key in the initial stage would have to be then involved in your kick-off meeting.
So that is if you had a structural engineer, if you had, like, what else?
So that would be the client, the structural engineer, you'd have the project manager, you'd have the contractor.
Okay.
So maybe the building contractor, maybe you also have an electrical contractor, or someone who's going to be doing your air conditioning.
Okay.
So just have everyone all
together.
Together.
Okay.
And you're basically just running through the objectives of the project, what the plan is, and everyone just needs to know what they need to do or what is expected of them.
Yeah.
What they need to deliver and when they need to deliver it.
Okay.
I think also people can then just also talk about any concerns that they might have before you guys actually start. So just looking at the plan, if you have any concerns, that's a good time to bring all those things up. Basically, that you are now handing over the project to the contractor.